Hey, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking storms across the central portion of the U.S. by Thursday. Okay, so that's going to be our big storm focus this week. But we have a few more storms to talk about before that happens. Let's take a look at your headlines today on this Tuesday afternoon. Hail chances return to the forecast just about every day this week, but we told you that the plains is going to be our main focus this week. We're talking about Texas, Oklahoma. As we head out to the west, we have an atmospheric river setting up. Have you guys ever heard of an atmospheric river? Essentially, it's a surge of moisture that's moving through the west coast right now, and that's going to impact weather across the entire U.S. So we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. And then we'll go out to Melissa, which has officially formed in the Caribbean Sea. Brand new news this morning. Tropical storm Melissa has officially formed just south of Haiti. So we'll take a look at that here in just a few minutes. But before we forget, don't forget to log on to our OU football ticket giveaway. All you have to do is go to HailTrace.com/OU-tickets, and that should take you to a page that will show you how to enter into our OU ticket giveaway. OU versus Ole Miss on October 25th at 11 a.m. It's going to be a good game, especially after a big South Carolina win on last Saturday. All right, but moving on past OU and into what we saw yesterday. As you take a look at what we saw yesterday, we saw a few showers out in Nebraska, all the way up into places like Minnesota and even into northwestern Iowa. We also saw a few showers across our New England states yesterday, but for your severe weather, it was few and far between. Very, very rare or low risk for severe weather yesterday, so I don't think that we got any storm reports, or at least nothing that I'm seeing right now. So moving on past what we saw yesterday and onto what we see today. Now, if you're a weather lover like we are here at HailTrace, you're going to want to watch this area up in the northern Midwest and southern portion of Canada, where we have this low pressure system that's pretty impressive at the moment. You can see the rotation from these showers and storms around this low, very, very evident there. And then as you follow this blue line down, that cold front, all the way down into the middle of Texas, you're going to also see a line of showers and storms. So you're going to see that continue to move off to the east over the next few hours. What that's going to do is it's going to bring a line of showers and storms, not a ton, mainly showers, nothing severe here, all the way across the East Coast. However, if we get a little bit closer to that low pressure system, we could see some isolated storms possibly going severe with that hail risk today, all the way into places like Detroit and even into places like Columbus, Ohio. So we'll have to take a look at that here in just a few minutes. My mic is just hanging out here today. Will you guys give me a minute if I can clip this back on? And we will continue the forecast here. We were so excited to get to the forecast, I didn't even clip my mic on. All right, moving down to the southeast. Pretty dry right now across the southeast. We're dry across the central portion of the U.S. and out to the west for now. However, big changes coming later on this evening for the northwestern portion of the U.S. Alrighty, moving on here. Your hail risk today, very, very low risk for hail up in places like Ohio, into Michigan, very, very low risk today. Tomorrow, we have a more impressive hail risk across places like Arizona and into New Mexico, so we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. And then we haven't even talked about the plains yet, so on Thursday, we'll have another round for hail. That looking a lot more impressive across Texas and Oklahoma. So we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes, but going up to places like Detroit and Cleveland today, oh, it's such a low risk for any sort of significant hail. Max hail size today, maybe up to quarters. It's going to be a very, very low risk for that. Looking a little bit more impressive on the eastern side of Arizona and western side of New Mexico tomorrow. So you can see, especially as we head into the afternoon and evening hours, we could see some robust storms in this area. Anything very isolated could produce strong wind gusts, or maybe even some quarter, $half size hail in this area. But really what's impressive here will be Oklahoma and Texas, but you have to wait just a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself before we talk about that risk. All right, low risk today. There you go, Detroit, Toledo, Cleveland, all included in that risk here. Moving on to your wind risk, you can see that highlighted there in blue in just a minute. Quarter size hail today. That's it. Maybe. if you're lucky. Most likely not, though. You may have some strong winds out of some of these storms today. If they do go severe, they're probably going to be warned for high wind, anywhere from Detroit to Toledo to Cleveland. Alrighty, moving past today and moving into tomorrow, I want to go ahead and zoom down into places like the eastern side of Arizona, the western side of New Mexico. Do you see that line of storms tomorrow? I think those could produce some isolated strong wind gusts and strong or large hail as well. So there you go. It's pretty isolated. You know, you're gonna get a little bit of rain, maybe a tiny bit of flooding. Not too worried about the flooding risk here, but you could every now and then get that stronger storm. We've got some showers and storms up in places like Utah and Colorado as well. So we're looking at some more active weather as we head into the next few days. But I think a lot of people are jumping on this afternoon because they want to see not only that tropical storm that we identified this morning, but also that risk for hail on Thursday. So let's go ahead and let's get into that. I'm going to skip through a few graphics here. There's your hail forecast for tomorrow. Let's get into Thursday. There you go. There is your marginal risk on Thursday. It's a level 1 on a scale of 5, but I do expect this to be intensified or increased to at least a level 2 risk as we head into the next few days. What we're watching for here is more information on this storm, but the Storm Prediction Center has already identified that hail and high wind are going to be the primary risks here. An isolated tornado risk cannot be ruled out. However, it's going to be more of a hail and a wind event. Mainly, this is going to start in the southern portion of the Texas Panhandle. So we're identifying places like Amarillo and Lubbock, Texas for the initial or the first rounds of showers and storms. It's going to be a little bit more impressive in this area as we move up into the Oklahoma Panhandle and into southern Kansas. That all will be on the docket for Thursday night. Now, as we head into Friday morning, these storms are going to shift to the east into places like central Oklahoma, losing their hail risk at this point, and then tracking to the east with that wind risk through the morning hours on Friday. So there's your storm risk on Thursday into Friday morning. Again, it's a late system. Thursday night, Friday morning. Now let me tell you, it's so far out that we don't have any really good models to give you an idea of this system quite yet. There's your low pressure system. As this moves off to the east, later tonight and into tomorrow morning, we're going to see more showers and storms moving across the central portion of the U.S. as we head into the middle of Thursday. I'm not too worried about these storms out in eastern New Mexico. If we get more updates tomorrow, we may see that risk extended out into the eastern side of New Mexico, but right now, as models look at the moment, not too worried about it. As we head into the afternoon hours on Thursday, these are going to become a lot more impressive. But again, I told you that we have to shift from our NAM 3K model to our GFS model here. Now what we're watching for is initially these storms starting out in Texas and then moving to the eastern side, moving to the east into western Oklahoma by late Thursday, early Friday, and then just shortly before your morning commute into the eastern side of Oklahoma on Friday morning. But we don't stop there. It's not like you got storms in the morning on Friday and then you have a great sunny Friday afternoon. It's going to be a rainy Friday here in Oklahoma. It's going to be a rainy Friday all the way down 35 into places like Dallas and Austin as well. You're going to see a lot of rain in this area. Even Kansas City is in the risk for flooding on Friday morning. So what we're watching for is after those initial strong to severe storms, a round of rain that will cause a flooding risk on Friday. We are saying it now. We want you to be weather aware for not only your morning commute on Friday, but also your evening commute, and maybe even into your early morning plans on Saturday. It looks like a very rainy 48 hours here. Now, I know a lot of you are looking forward to the OU game here in Norman on Saturday afternoon, or Saturday at 11 o'clock, Saturday morning. Could be a rainy one for that as well. So keep an eye on that for your OU Ole Miss plans. We will continue to see these showers and storms track down to the southeast, and we've got another flood risk in this area on Saturday. So there's your setup. Do we have any weather questions before we move on here? We always check for questions. Tell us where you're watching from. Are you watching from Oklahoma? Are you watching from the Four Corners where we're expecting storms tomorrow? Are you watching from the Midwest where we've got storms today? We're kind of all over the map here. While we wait for your questions to come in, we're going to move on and talk about that flood risk here. Oh, we have a hail risk as well. Let's talk about the hail risk here. Here's a look at your hail risk. We're highlighting Amarillo and Lubbock for some of those larger and more likely hailstorms. Again, we're going to start off with that initial hail threat late on Thursday, transitioning into a hail wind threat in western Oklahoma late on Thursday. Early Friday morning, we transition into mainly a wind threat out in eastern Oklahoma. So Tulsa, Oklahoma City, I'm not too confident that you guys are going to get any of that large hail. However, Amarillo and Lubbock, you guys have a much better chance. Moving on here, we talked about the flood risk.
Got a weather question.
We've got a weather question. Yeah, perfect. Michaela's producing today. She's doing a great job at that. Josh is asking, what about St. Louis? Well, great timing, Josh. It looks like St. Louis should get a pretty good soaking by early Saturday morning. Late Friday night, early Saturday morning. You guys are also included in this massive swath of rain that we're expecting across the plains early this weekend. Here's the thing, there's really not a great risk for severe weather at this time in St. Louis. However, that could change over the next few days. I think if we get any severe weather on Saturday, it'd be in this region of the country, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. We just don't have the information at this point yet. I know we have another question as well. John says, I'll be at the OU game in Oklahoma. You already answered my question about Saturday morning. Boomer Sooner. Yes, so for all of you just joining right now, it does look like it's probably going to be a pretty wet OU game early on Saturday. Here you go, Saturday 5 a.m. You're getting up. Maybe you're already on the road for the game at this point. It's wet. If you're traveling from Tulsa, you have a higher chance for rain. The farther central and west that you go, the lower your rain chances are. So who knows, maybe we could have a break in the rain for Saturday morning. Here's the good news. Your likelihood for severe weather on Saturday morning is pretty low. We'll have to keep an eye on it because it looks like a very, very wet game. It's going to be wet and cold. Great questions today. As always, let us know about those weather questions in the chat. We can see them over here. And I'm pretty good about going back on Facebook and on YouTube and checking the comments section after the forecast. But hey, while we're waiting for more weather questions to come in, I do want to get out to our newest meteorologist, Michaela Smith. She broke down what we're expecting for winter weather this year. And I see, the snow that's moving into the northwest here. It makes me remember, hey, we are just a few weeks, maybe a few months away from that first snow across a good portion of the nation. Michaela, what can we see for winter weather this year?
Thanks, Taylor. We are officially in a La Nina weather pattern. It just started at the end of September, and right now it's forecast to go at least until the beginning of January 2026. But if not, it could continue slightly further into February or even March. Now you might be asking yourself, what does La Nina even mean? Well, our weather pattern is actually based off of trade winds off the coast of Central America, and whether they are weaker or stronger, that's going to impact our ocean temperatures. So in a year like this one, when we're in a La Nina year, that means those trade winds are a lot stronger. It's pushing that warm water away from Central America and closer to Asia, and that's allowing cold water to come up, and that's going to eventually cause our Pacific jet stream to move more towards the north. When that happens, then you have a lot of wetter than average conditions you can see on this graphic behind me, especially for areas like the Pacific Northwest, and colder than average conditions for areas to the north, versus the southern parts of the United States are usually going to trend to being a little bit drier and a little bit warmer. Now on the flip side, when you have an El Nino year, that's going to be when those trade winds are a little bit weaker. So that's allowing that warm air to come back closer to the coast of Central America, and then that Pacific jet actually moves down a little bit more, so that brings those wetter conditions back towards the central part of the US, and that gives us a little bit more of a stormy pattern usually, and then things trend to being a little bit drier up to the north. So how is that going to impact our winter this year? Well, you can see, talking about rainfall behind me, areas to the north are expecting a little bit wetter than average conditions when it comes to talking about this winter season. So especially when you have wetter conditions and colder temperatures in a lot of spots, that's going to trend towards typically seeing a little bit more snow. As for areas to the south, you can see things are trending to be a little bit drier than average. Areas like Texas included in that, especially areas like Georgia and the northern parts of Florida. That's where we really have a circle of more of those drier than average conditions. So that means at least right now it's trending for December, January, and February for things to be a little bit drier, which could take some of those snow chances away. As for those temperatures, in a lot of those areas that we talked about things being a little wetter than average, that's also where you can see things typically are expected to be cooler than average for December through February. And then on the flip side, a lot of those areas we talked about it being drier than average are also going to be a little bit warmer. You can especially see highlighted behind me areas like El Paso into parts of New Mexico and Arizona. That's trending on being a little bit warmer than average. But I also want to remind you that this is warmer than average compared to normal values. So if those normal highs for December, January, and February, talking about maybe mid 40s to 50s, that doesn't mean you're talking about 90-degree days in the winter. It's just going to be a little bit above what you could expect. So if the normal's sitting right around 45, maybe you're talking about 55 or 60, which is still a little bit warmer, but that doesn't mean it's going to be record-breaking temperatures by any means. So now you know trade winds and ocean temperatures are what's impacting your winter, and you can let us know if you're a little bit more excited about being in an area that's maybe trending towards a little bit cooler and wetter and the possibility of snow, or if you're happy that your forecast is a little bit drier and warmer than average. Me personally, I do like to see some snow, so keeping my fingers crossed that we may get some down here in Oklahoma. Taylor, what are you excited for this winter outlook?
Michaela, that was fantastic information. So as we transition into that La Nina, I think that we're going to get some good snow this year. And yes, I love snow. That's a great question. I think if it's going to be cold, it might as well snow. We might as well get something out of it, like a snow day or at least some really pretty views out our windows. But great information there. Actually, Michaela and I were looking at our past ice storms from the past few years, and we said, what was it, October 2020, and then back in 2007, here in Oklahoma, December 2007, we had major ice storms, and that was also as we were transitioning into a strong La Nina. So I guess we'll see what'll happen for the rest of this year. Alrighty, there's snow out in the west, snow in the mountains today. We are expecting a lot of wet weather to move in over the next 7 days. So you can see just this round of rain after round of rain. Take a look at next Monday. We could see another round of rain right through the central portion and northern portion of the plains, all the way up into places like Iowa and Minnesota. One more thing about this forecast this week, I want to talk about the flooding risk in Oklahoma and Texas. I mentioned all of that rain that we're going to get on Friday and Saturday. We do have a risk. It's a level 2 risk just to the east of Oklahoma City and just to the south of Tulsa, to the north of Dallas, included, all those cities included on this risk here for Friday. So we're talking about rain early Friday morning into the afternoon and evening hours, all the way through Saturday morning, and we actually have another risk for flooding on Saturday as well. So that'll be for southeastern Oklahoma, eastern Texas, all of Louisiana, most of Arkansas, and the western side of Mississippi. So we've got a lot of people in the path for flooding as we head into the end of this work week and early next weekend. A little bit of a recap of what we talked about today. Today's severe weather risk up in Detroit. Tomorrow's severe weather risk, eastern side of Arizona, western side of New Mexico. By Thursday, that's going to be what we all have our eyes on, right? Hail risk, especially in the Texas Panhandle, the western side of Oklahoma, and then we transition from a hail risk to more of a wind and a flooding risk as we head into the early morning hours on Friday in central and eastern Oklahoma. So there's your storm risk. What do we have next? Oh, Tropical Storm Melissa. How could I forget? Early this morning, we had brand new information that we officially had our next named storm. Tropical Storm Melissa, you can see here. These are some of the outer bands. There's Melissa itself, spinning out in the ocean just to the south of the Dominican Republic and to the south of Haiti. Now, this is our next named storm. We can officially check Melissa off of the list there. This is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th named storm of the season. Let's take a look at the track of Melissa. Now, what we were told by the National Hurricane Center a few days ago is that if this storm could slow its speed down, then we would most likely get a tropical storm. Well, it looks like Melissa is going to slow down a pretty significant amount. We're at 14 miles an hour for its movement right now. However, it looks to slow down a little bit more as we head into the middle of the work week. What this is going to do is it's going to give this storm plenty of time to organize while it's still out in the middle of the Caribbean before it has been impacted by any sort of land feature. And that's going to help for this storm to intensify. We've got 70-mile-per-hour winds by late on Thursday and officially a Category 1 hurricane forecasted by late on Friday and early on Saturday. Now, this isn't looking great for some of these islands up here, so we absolutely want to keep an eye on these islands and make sure that they are prepared for that potential hurricane that's coming their way. Again, it's a slow mover. We've still got about 4 or 5 days until that happens, but we'll have to keep an eye on it here. I think there are already some advisories for places like Jamaica right now. One note about the path of this storm, it could easily change. These are your spaghetti plots. So basically what that means is all of these lines represent a different model. So it represents the different path of each different model. So this is where the GFS wants to take Melissa, right through the Dominican and Haiti. We've also got other models that want to go out straight into the Caribbean and up into the Gulf. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. There's no consensus exactly of where Melissa is going to go at this point. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Moving on to your tropical climatology, we told you guys a few weeks ago that we still have several weeks left of hurricane season. The very last part of October can always get a few tropical storms or maybe even a few hurricanes. Now, it's pretty rare to get a major hurricane. Last year, what did we have? We had a Cat 3, Rainfall, in the middle of November. We had a Cat 1 this time last year at the very end of October, Oscar. So it's still possible, we saw that last year, to still have a pretty active hurricane season. Moving on, after Melissa, we're going to come back on land and we're going to talk about these temperatures that are cool right now, but warming up as we head into the middle or end of the work week here. Now, some of this rain is going to help to keep us a little bit cooler, but I do think that we're going to see overall a general warm up here until that rain passes on Friday and Saturday, and then it'll be a little bit cooler here. This is your classic fall roller coaster temperatures. We go up for a few days and then back down and then back up. Overall, it looks like we're trending a little bit above average for this time of the year, but not by much. That trend is going to continue as we head into the end of this month. We're already looking into the end of October, the 26th through the 30th. It looks like temperatures are likely to still be warmer than normal by the end of this month and wetter than normal as well. So we have a really good chance to see this active pattern continue where we have a chance for showers and storms just about every other day, if not every third day. So we'll have to keep an eye on it as we end the month. Of course, you know that HailTrace will always be watching the weather. We have over 15 meteorologists here at HailTrace that always have their eyes on the storms. So follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok for more updates on weather. While we're not on live, we're always watching the storms, so we'll update you on those platforms. And then give us a call if you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map. Give us a call at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com. Head over to our website, hailtrace.com, for more information. Thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and I'll see you back here same time, same place for your forecast tomorrow.